Let's arrive tonight in a nice, gentle butterfly pose. So my legs are relatively long, so it's not a tight butterfly, but a nice long butterfly. And I'm just gonna let my head cascade down. My shoulders roll down and then fall, letting gravity pull me down. Just arriving into the floor and into my body. Sense where your feet touch the earth. Feel into the hips. Notice if you're efforting and pushing, or notice if you're holding on. See if you can soften. Finding a gentle balance between effort and ease. Notice if you're holding the head, the jaw. Shake the head no. Letting go of anything you don't need, anything that doesn't serve you right now. And then maybe open and close or shift the jaw side to side. Softening the face, corresponding with softening into the pelvis and the hips. And just arrive. Take a moment to turn inward. To create space. And opening to whatever is arising, whatever will arise throughout this practice. Setting an intention so that as you move, you can bring attention to what you intend, giving yourself exactly what you need. Let's begin by letting go of what we don't, with a few big exhales, exhaling through the mouth, sighing it out. One more sigh, opening the mouth wide, letting everything go. And then gently rolling yourself back up, pressing with the hands, returning to sitting. Maybe using the hands to draw the knees into the chest. Riding the wave of sensation, whatever is there right now, until it subsides. Welcome back. And now remove whatever cushion is beneath you. And we're going to start a little differently today. Like I said, I wanted to come into the hips. And I talked about, as we began, that gentle balance between effort and ease. So we'll do a little activity first, a little work to begin. And I'm going to have you come towards that frog leg, where your legs are at about 90 degrees in the front and the back. And I want to just work into the hips a little bit, increase some awareness and proprioception. So our legs are moving in opposite directions right now. And I want to encourage that back hip to kind of roll forward and down. And then maybe you find that you kind of sink into the front hip to that side, and notice if you lean to the side, and then see if you can come more upright and square the hips forward. And then just come back. So we'll do just a little rocking. And see what happens if you press that left hip forward. Couple more rounds. Maybe if needed, the hands can be on the floor. I like the hands monitoring the hip, but if you feel like you need a little bit of stability, maybe the hands can go on the floor. Waking up the hips. And then I'm going to take my alpha ball into that front hip, into the outside of the right hip. And I'm going to just kind of bump my hip up onto it. And I'm going to come back into that tipping again, moving my pelvis as I roll that alpha ball in the outside of my right hip. Awakening awareness in there. Playing with that just right spot. Leaning into the sensation. So just enough sensation that it's strong but sustainable. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of lean into it. And then I can lean in slowly so that it's like I'm dipping my toes in the water. And then coming back out. And then I might even come down onto my elbow. And then as you arrive there, you might decide, oh, I'm just going to hang out here. Or maybe what you do is you reach your top arm up overhead. Or come closer down to the floor and support yourself. Feeling the length in the top leg and the compression in the bottom. Melt into the sensation in the outside of the right hip. And wherever you want to be, whatever feels just right, that Goldilocks spot for you is exactly where you should be. Starting to feel a little side opening in the lateral seams of the body. Sensing compression on one side and elongation on the other. And then gently pressing yourself up so that we can get a little bit more into the front hip. And I want to play with this front hip mobility. So I want you to try to lift that foot up off the floor. See if you can lift it. You might even have to help it up. And you might notice, oh, my passive range of motion is more than my active range of motion. And if that's the case, lift it up, and then can you hold it there? Hovering it off the floor, feeling that right glute engaged now that we just activated with the rolling. And then release. You might sink back to the other hip. And then bring the weight into that right front hip again. Maybe you lift the foot to give you a little assist to get to that end range of activation in the right hip, holding it, lifting it up. Feel that right outer hip engage. And then release. And then let's do that one more time. Shifting over the ball. The ball could come out if necessary. Lift that front foot. Press the knee into the floor. Feel like you're rotating that front hip from the buttocks on the right. Hold for 3, 2, 1, and then release the ball. And then just notice how much easier sitting in that initial position. Now here's the fun part. Now, without using the hands if possible, engaging in the core and the hips, let's see if we can move to the opposite side. Once you get there, let's come back. Pressing the back hip forward, coming upright, trying to keep that length as you twist. It's okay if you need to lean back and use the hands, but see if we can find that balance between stability and mobility. Staying connected to the core, staying long, elongated through the spine. Couple more. Awakening the hips. Hands can always come behind. And then when you get to the left side, pausing on the left. Noticing if it's easier to come to the second side now that we just worked this right hip a bit. So now let's do that same thing we did before. Sit back into your back hip and then press that hip forward. Couple times, rolling over the hip bone. So feeling the pelvis roll back, pelvis roll forward, rolling into the hips in this end range stretch. So increasing our awareness and proprioception in the end range. So it's like we're flossing into that end range. So in yin yoga, so this is very different than yin yoga, but in yin yoga, we talk about finding the edge, playing the edge of mobility. And here we're playing that edge, but by trying to awaken awareness in that edge so that we can better use these end ranges of motion. And then now take your alpha ball or your plus ball, whatever ball feels right, and kind of bump it right into the hip, the outer hip on the left side. And find that just right spot so you can roll over that alpha ball, getting some nice mobility, nice compression into the outer hip. And this side might feel completely different than the other. I know for me, it totally does. Two more rounds of movement or stillness, and then you can start to lean into it a little bit more and finding that just right spot. Maybe you still do a little bit of pelvic tilting to work that ball right into the outer hip. Pausing on the elbow or leaning over your bolster. Feeling the lengthening in one side as you feel the compression in the other. Notice what happens if you rotate the chest. Lean into the sensation of where the ball and body meet. See if you can sink in just a little bit more over that ball. Letting the buttocks soften. Starting to awaken, elongate the side seams of the body. Taking about 3 more breaths wherever you are. And then returning upright. Now, taking your left foot and lifting that left foot off the ground with muscle. Try first with muscle, see how far you can get it. Then maybe using your hand to get that last little bit of the range. Then notice, can you engage the left glute and sustain the activation in that range? Can we train in the end range to improve our access to this hip opening mobility? Everybody's always wanting hip opening, hip opening, hip opening, but can we actually sustain it by working into it? Again, 2 more times. Press the left knee down, lift the left foot up, feel it turn on in the buttocks on the left side. Maybe the ball's helpful, maybe it's not. Listen to what your body needs right now in this moment. And then release. Again. Hold for 3, 2, 1, and then release. Remove the ball, come back into your rocking from side to side. Trying to keep the spine elongated as you go. Few times motion. See if you can press the back hip forward as you come to one side and then as you go to the other. And then now, pausing back to that first side, I'm just going to quarter turn a little bit. Same posture, I just want you to be able to see me. I'm going to take my bolster and we're going to do 2 things. First, we're going to do a side waist opening, getting into the side body, get side body lengthening, which we already sort of had a little hint of. And then we'll do a little rotation. So I want to take my Coregeous ball. If you don't have a Coregeous ball, take a rolled up towel right into the side waist. And then now take the top arm overhead and I'm going to reach towards the top of my bolster. And I'm going to do just a little bit of rocking to find that just right spot in the side waist on the right. If the hand overhead is just no good, take the hand and hold the back of the neck. Let the elbow come down. Let the elbow go back. And I'm just kind of flossing first into that side waist, freeing up that space between the rib cage and the pelvis. And then we'll work our way up a little bit. Flossing our way in there. And then I'm going to take it up right into the outer ribs now so that I'll feel my upper ribs expand. And now I really want to think about expanding through the rib cage. So maybe I even take that bottom hand to the top ribs. And I want you to feel the ribs, right where the ball is, expand like an accordion. Breathing in through the nose. out like you're fogging a mirror. Can you feel the pressure into the lower ribs? And can you feel the expansion in the upper ribs? Again, feeling equal and opposite in the two sides of the body. Feeling the imbalance of pressure. Pressing the left knee to the floor, feeling as much length as possible, sensing a balance between effort and ease. Feeling yourself bump up against that edge of mobility here. But at the same time, being able to soften into it. So little gentle work at that end range. Meeting that edge with kindness, curiosity. I'm being a little bit more dynamic today with my sort of yin exploration. So allow yourself to be playful and be curious. And now take your trunk, and this is a more traditional deer, turn yourself towards your bolster. Now line yourself up on your bolster. Take the ball into the front of the ribs. And now you're going to rotate down into the front of the ribs over your gorgeous ball. And feel the left side dropping down now. So rotating downward. Sense the breath now fill the upper back. You'll start to feel this corkscrewing motion. We have this corkscrewing motion through the ribs going one way and the pelvis going the other. So a ringing out in the midsection. So allow yourself to drop. As you breathe into the ball, notice how the ball becomes a platform, so the breath actually fills into the upper back. So as the breath fills into the ribs, the breath hits the ball, and then that shoots the ball up, the breath upward into the back body, filling the back body like a balloon. Bringing all your awareness to where the ball and body meet, or like I said, a towel roll and body meet. Feeling the breath, the inhalation, exhalation, create a dynamic stability, making this sustainable, yet mobile. Feeling that edge of mobility and the sensations begin to shift and change with time. And then now let's progress that twist even a little bit more. So with that ball in the front of the rib cage, I'm actually going to take my left hand. I can bring it down to the floor. I could bring it to my bolster, but I'm going to take the right hand behind the head. And I'm going to actually try to increase that rotation even more, leaning, maybe even pressing down into the left hand and then looking over under my right shoulder. Looking to the right, under my right shoulder. Allowing myself to maximize that rotation towards the right, looking under the right armpit, really using the left hand. So finding that just right spot so that you can push down to rise up. Again, we're kind of feeling into opposites. Noticing the ball move over the rib cage, leaning into it, creating a platform. One more time. And then continuing this sort of twisting over, we're going to just come right into a pigeon, or in yin we call it sleeping swan from here. And I'm going to have you rotate the pelvis over. And then now here, as we come into this yin variation, you might take the bolster and prop yourself. Please, if you'd like, take a small prop to prop the hip. This leg does not have to be all the way out. It can be tucked in, and in this yin variation, because we hold it a little longer, I actually like to tuck it in a little closer. So allow yourself to come towards a forward bend in your sleeping swan. If you'd like, you may even like your alpha ball in that right hip again. It may feel really nice to prop up just under the sit bone. And you could even feel yourself roll side to side a little bit. Or take that gorgeous ball into your chest or into your forehead. Allowing yourself to melt into that just right spot. And we'll stay here for a while. Spending about 3 minutes or so, at least, in our yin postures, giving ourselves time to move into stillness. Feeling that balance between effort and ease, mobility and stability. Sensing the earth beneath you. And if the mind wanders, bringing it back to the movements of the breath. Resting in that dynamic balance of breath, in and out. And since we did a little rotation, maybe you stay here, but if it felt right, it might feel good right now to sort of thread the needle of the left arm under the right. That might feel just right and accessible to you and supportive of some of these other openings that we did. But whatever shape you take, do so in a kind way, a curious way, not forcing. Moving slowly. If your hand is thread underneath, pressing down with the right arm to bring both hands to the floor. And then sitting back onto the right hip, you'll come back towards that deer posture. And then just take a moment, bringing your legs to center, finding butterfly for a minute, and just resting here. Or maybe we even find Sukhasana, easy pose. Letting the wave of sensation subside. Reconnecting to the stability of the earth, to stillness, to ease. Feeling that first wave and then letting it go. Preparing for the second side. Let the left leg come in front, the right leg behind now. It feels like so long ago. Taking your towel roll. And then bringing it first, tucking it right in the side waist, leaning over it, because when we do side bending, we want to keep length in the bottom side as well. So we're getting this compression in the bottom side. And then reaching the top arm up and over, and we get this extra length. So lengthening through both sides, but the bottom side is compressed. And then now I'm going to take my hands to the top of my bolster, or I can take it and hug my pillow. I might even take it behind my head. And I'm going to do just a little mobility. I'm going to ease my way into stillness. So move my way in. Kind of like dipping your toes in the water. It's easier to just dip in a little bit at a time, letting the body slowly welcome the sensation. And then if it feels right, pausing in stillness. Breathing into the side waist where the ball and body meet. Lengthening from the top fingertips to the right knee. Even pressing the right hip forward a little. Feeling the activation, the active lengthening through that upper side, that whole lateral chain of the body. And then when you're ready, moving the ball up slightly. So now it's in the side of the rib cage. Feeling that pressure into the bottom side ribs. And then breathing into the lower ribs like an accordion. So we're using our breath as we go through this series as the driver to mobilize the rib cage. Ribs expand in both directions. And then exhale, compressing towards center. Breathe 360 degrees around the circumference of the inner ribs. Even though you're resting in stillness, feeling the movement of the breath and that changing edge of mobility, feeling each breath change the experience, staying awake to each moment as it arises, feeling the shifting sensations in that constant dynamic balance of effort and ease. Finding that just right spot. Sighing it out. And then rotating, feeling the ball or the towel come into the front of the lower ribs. Starting to feel this corkscrew action of the spine. Feel the right shoulder dip down towards the floor. It may even be a little effort to put the forearm on the floor. But see if you can let the upper back round and be heavy. So the right hip is moving out to the right, and then the right shoulder is moving with the effect, with the help of gravity, down to the left. And see if you can sense that opposite movement of the rib cage and pelvis with this deep ringing action right in the core. Letting go of whatever you no longer need. Sensing the support of the earth beneath you. Using the breath to ease your way in. With each exhale, letting go just a little bit more into spaciousness, openness, and ease. And then staying here if it feels right, making this variation a little dynamic, awakening rotational motion. Maybe the right hand presses down into the floor as the left elbow swings up, looking underneath the left shoulder, really feeling that corkscrew action continue through the whole body, feeling the diagonal movement. Each movement having its own breath. Each movement, new sensation. Rolling over the bottom ribs. Pushing down as a platform to lift out of. One more time. And then letting both your hands come towards the floor and easing your way towards a yin type pigeon posture. I like to tuck my knee in a little bit more. You may find that it feels better keeping your hips off to the side, or you may come over like a more traditional pigeon. May even feel nice to take your your alpha ball into the hip. You can get a little compression through the back of the left thigh if that feels good. Or maybe even into the outer IT band if you find yourself kind of tipping off to the left. And then let yourself slowly make your way, feeling each step, each change in the path as you make your way down. Towards your pigeon or sleeping swan. Giving yourself whatever external support your body's craving. Dropping into the floor and then lifting up that surface to meet you with props or balls. And if it felt right on the other side, maybe coming towards that thread the needle. Threading the left arm underneath the right. Letting the right shoulder come towards the floor. Maybe again, you could even use your ball in the back of that right shoulder if it just feels just right. This is a nice exposure here of the infraspinatus tendon at the back of the shoulder. But wherever you land, allow yourself to sink into stillness. With each exhale, letting go of what you no longer need. Sensing that balance of effort and ease. Letting go of any extra efforting in the jaw, in the shoulders, in the hands. Letting go of any efforting in the mind, striving or averting. If you're striving, let go of working. Let yourself be exactly where you are right now. And if you're averting, where does the body need more support? If you find yourself antsy or fidgety or irritable, how can you give yourself more foundation to lean into? Is it a prop? What would feel just right in the body? Is it by just sensing where your body touches the floor? Or is it reconnecting to the sensation of breath? Listen to every sensation the body is giving you right now. Awaken to all of those sensations so you can listen to exactly what you need in this moment. Pausing for 3 more breaths in this posture of surrender and letting go. Letting go, wanting to control wanting to manipulate, allowing things to be just as they are. And then pressing into the left hand, bringing both hands to the floor. Walk yourself up and come back to midline. Maybe even hugging the knees if that feels right. Riding the wave of sensation, integrating the effects of the practice. If we rush into the next thing, the body doesn't have the chance to absorb the ripples. So feel the sensations like ripples in the water expanding outward, watching them, staying with them until they completely subside. And now let both legs come wide, coming towards a nice full expression of side waist opening. And that idea of moving between opposites, so finding balance from finding one side and then the other, will come into a version of dragonfly. So the legs don't have to be really wide. They can be at a comfortable V. We're not trying to force them out. And also too, here's a really nice place to take a blanket under your sit bones so that you just gently tip the pelvis forward. It gives you a little more room. If there's any discomfort in the knees or the knees feel like they hyperextend or they don't want to touch the floor, go ahead, throw a blanket under there too. How can you make yourself feel stable and supported in your pelvis on the legs? Feel the body completely supported on the earth here. This is your foundation. You have this nice wide triangle. So first, feel into that foundation. Grounded through the heels, the calves, the thighs, the pelvis. Baby coming back to that sense of rocking over the sit bones. Let's actually all of us do that just a couple times. So feel yourself roll back and then feel yourself roll forward. Maybe it feels better to have the hands for support or hands at the hips. What does it feel like to move the pelvis over the hip sockets? We've gotten a lot into the hips tonight, but by moving the trunk over the hips. So moving from center to create this radiating outward and this spaciousness and width. And then keep those hips tipped over the pelvis. And now we're going to come into our side waist opening. I'm going to play with using my Coregeous ball again because I want to sort of feel that side waist mobility. And if you prefer to use your bolster too. So I'm going to take it and kind of stick it right into my left side. I'm going to lean into it. If that isn't enough to kind of get up against your body, what is it like to lie over the bolster? Or what is it like to not have anything? Listen to what your body's asking for right now. This is going to give you more ground and support. So whatever you're feeling you need, you crave in this moment, does the body need something to hold it up? Or are you working on that process of letting go? And if you're really trying to let go into gravity, let go of holding, maybe no prop is the way to go so that you can let gravity continue to pull you down. Typically in yin, we prop last. So we let the pose evolve, feeling that first edge, then that second edge, and feeling that progression. And then if there's any discomfort, if there's any injury, if there's any need of external support because you can't lean in and be curious in the pose, then we prop. So play with what feels right for you in this moment. So I'm going to take my right arm up overhead again, reaching from my right foot all the way to my right fingertips. Can I sense the compression on the left side, leaning into the left? And can I sense the elongation on the right? So sensing one, sense compression, leaning into the left. Sensing elongation, lengthening through the right. And then allowing both to be there simultaneously. That top arm may like to link behind the neck if the neck needs some support. Or if it needs a sense of ground, it needs to touch something, you can take a block so that it can press off, so that you can feel that foundation to lift off of. How can you let go of the head? Can you keep the head at rest, both the brain, the mind, and the physiological head itself at rest, and lean into the sensations of the body? Notice, what are you feeling on the whole left side of the body? What are you feeling on the right side of the body? What is calling your attention most as sensation right now? How can you be a little bit more curious, leaning into that sensation? Can you let your breath go there, letting your attention move towards that sensation? And simply by shifting awareness there without the desire to change it, simply to observe it. Maybe you even notice it give way. And then coming out very slowly, maybe take the left hand to the side of the head. And then reach the right arm out to the other side. Let yourself come towards center. Resting in midline. Noticing how it feels. Feeling the entire wave of that. The beginning, the middle, and the end. And when you're ready, moving to the other side, finding whatever variation feels right for you. It might be different on this side. Like I said, I'm taking that ball into my side waist so I can really sense into it. I'm giving myself more feedback by using these props tonight so that I can breathe into them. And I can feel a little bit more sense of ground to lift up off of them. So I'm going to slide my right hand down the inside of my right leg. I'm going to reach the left arm up and over. And just arrive feeling that first barrier, that first speed bump of motion. Feeling where sensation begins, not pushing past it to that full end range, but feeling just a little bit of resistance noting it. Breathing into the resistance without trying to make it go away. Notice if your tendency is to effort, but also notice if your tendency is to avert. Can you find a place that's sensational but sustainable, where there's neither need to run towards or run away from, but where you can be curious and explore, where you can be fully there in that breath. So if the mind wanders, come back to your breath. Feeling the balance of elongation on the left, compression on the right, letting the head surrender, letting go of thoughts, judgments, and resting in the sensation. Let your breath move right into where it's sensational. Feeling how the breath brings your awareness to where the body's asking for attention through its sensations. Resting your awareness there. Notice how the body spontaneously begins to soften with gentleness and allowing the sensations to be there. Notice how that kindness towards oneself starts to create a sense of spaciousness, openness, the potential for self-healing, increasing our capacity. Taking 3 or so more breaths here. Finding your fullest expression. And then let the left hand come out to the left side. Take the right hand to the head. Reach yourself up. And then take your hands under your knees. Draw the knees in. Maybe give yourself just a little hug. Reconnecting to the midline. After expansion, resting in contraction. And then as we move into our final rest, I'd like to do a little propping with balls and props if it feels right. If you'd like to just come into your regular Shavasana shape, find whatever shape suits you right now. It could be legs up the wall. It could be flat on your back. It could be legs up on a chair or stool, but I'm gonna find a Supta Baddha Konasana or supine butterfly, but I'm gonna get a little creative with my therapy balls. I'm gonna take my 2 plus size balls And I'm going to take them right into the outside of the hips, kind of like how I started. And I'm going to just kind of stick them right in, just to the outside of that hip bone. It gives it, like, kind of props it up a little bit, but allows that hip to drop into it. And then I'm going to lean back over my bolster. You could do this over foam, over a rolled up blanket, or 2 folded yoga blankets. And I'm going to allow myself to lean back. And then I'm going to take my standard size therapy balls, and I'm just going to give myself a nice suboccipital cradle. Oftentimes the tension we mirror in the pelvis is mirrored at the base of the head. So we did a lot of work in the hips and pelvis by moving the spine over the hips today. And I feel like it will be nice to just balance that out with a nice little suboccipital release here. And if you don't want this bolster at all, if you don't want to be supported up, this could also be done flat on your back. So just balls at the hips and balls at the base of the head. If you have yourself flat on the floor, these standard size therapy balls may have to go on a block or a blanket to stay in place. And as you arrive into this final posture, come back to your intention for today. How you'd like to feel as a result of this practice, or what you need most in your body, mind, and spirit. And affirm that intention as being met and attained in this present moment, feeling the felt sense of what it's like to achieve that intention. And then connect to the support beneath you. Feel the ground. Stability and safety of resting, of being able to open and feel safe and secure because of this support beneath us. And then welcome into the body the felt sense of what feels like to be grounded, to feel stable, to feel secure, to feel at ease in the entire body. Welcoming it as a felt sense, allowing the body to open into ease, the sense of being. This is always accessible to you. Anytime, day or night. And the more you return to it, the easier it is to find. So welcome what it feels like to be safe, secure, grounded, and at ease. Letting go of any efforting. You can stay in this posture or allow yourself to come into a more supported Shavasana posture as we move through our guided body scan, letting go of any last bit of tension you may be holding onto. As we move through the body, we'll contract and then relax. so that we can feel into the opposites of tension and ease. And we come to better know that spectrum, that swing, and that balance by feeling into one and feeling into the other. So sense the left toes, the left foot, the left calf, and curl the toes. Engage the arch, squeeze the calf, feeling tension in the lower leg and foot. Holding that tension, ramping up the volume of tension so you feel that spectrum of tension. And then soften the calf, the foot, the toes, letting the left lower leg be heavy, supported, and at ease. And then engage the left toes, curling the toes, squeezing the arch, engaging the calf. Feel tension in the back of the lower leg. Dial up that tension so it's strong but sustainable. Feeling the variations of tension. And then start to dial down that tension until you turn it off completely, letting the right lower leg be heavy, relaxed, and at ease. And then squeeze the left thigh, front of the thigh, back of the thigh. Engage the muscles around the thigh like you're compressing the thigh bone with the musculature. Dial up the volume of tension without overflowing into any other area. Just observe the left thigh and then soften the left thigh, letting the tissues drop around the bone, letting the thigh bone drop towards the floor. Tensing the muscles all around the right thigh, quads, hamstrings, adductors, IT band, feeling that circumference become more tense, like you're squeezing the thigh bone. Dialing up that tension, hold for 3, 2, 1, and then start to dial it down. Feel the intricacies of that tension spectrum until you turn that dial off. Like a sigh, letting the thigh be heavy and the tissues all around the thigh drop towards the floor. Squeezing the left buttock now. Turning up that dial. Feeling what it's like to clench, to hold, to squeeze. And then one dial, volume dial at a time, start to lessen that. Lessen it, until you can shut off any tension you may be holding onto in the left glute. And then engaging the right glute, squeeze the right thigh, the right buttock. Squeezing, tensing, clenching the right cheek. Just localizing that tension to that spot. And maybe noticing any patterns of overflow. As you increase the tension, what else is happening? And then dialing down, can you dial it down and dial it back one notch at a time until you click it all the way up? Allowing both legs, both hips to be heavy, supported, and at ease on the mat. Maybe positioning them all the way down, letting the toes fall outward. Calves heavy, thighs heavy, buttocks heavy. And then coming to the left arm, clenching the left fist, forearm, bicep, even shoulder, pulling it up toward your ear, feeling what it's like to be tense in the left arm. Dial up that volume of tension, making the clenching just a little bit more. Noticing what happens. Is there overflow somewhere else? What happens in the jaw, in the head, in the neck? Without invoking pain, just dial up the tension so it's strong but sustainable for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then start to back down slowly in the shoulder, in the biceps, in the elbow, in the forearm, in the hand and fingers. Unfolding the entire left arm, allowing it to be heavy, supported, and at ease. Sensing tension and then sensing ease. Allowing the left arm to feel heavy, spacious, and open on the mat. Drawing awareness to the right arm, squeeze the right fingers, right wrist, forearm, elbow, biceps, pulling the shoulder up towards the ear, tensing, squeezing the entire right arm. Dialing up the volume of tension, feeling that sense of efforting. Noticing what else is happening as a result. Without judging, simply observing the pattern. And then dialing back that pattern. Dialing down the tension. Relax the shoulder, the arm, the hand, the fingers. Allowing the entire right arm to be heavy, supported, and at ease. And then bringing attention to the neck, face, and head. Tense the entire face. Tense the throat. Tense the head. Feeling the patterns of tension in the head. Dialing up that tension. Feeling what strain, what efforting, what work feels like. Leaning into that efforting, observing the patterns, tightness in the cheeks, in the lips, in the eyes, in the scalp, in the throat. For 3, 2, 1, and then dialing it down, not letting it go completely, but moving one step down at a time. Leaning into and then drawing away from slowly until you click. Let go into ease, into heaviness, into support, the entire head, face, neck, and throat. Let go completely. Supported and open. Observe the breath moving through the body. Body breathing itself. No need to do or change anything. resting in the stillness. Feeling supported and open. Welcome into you whatever you need most in this moment. Feeding yourself, sustaining yourself. In this place of receiving, receive all the benefits of your practice. Staying here as long as you like. And when you feel complete, rolling to your side, pausing on your side, feeling that support of the earth again, feeling gravity. Reconnecting to the edges, the outline of the physical body. Press down, feeling that external support of the earth, and rise up into your internal strength. Completing the cycle of this practice, ending where we began. Grateful for this practice and our bodies in which we experience all things. Through this work, may we come to know ourselves better, experiencing the fullness of ourselves and taking it from our mats into the world to share its benefits. Thank you so much for your practice. Namaste.